What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22 My Team Career Mode. And this time we're going to be at the Brazilian Grand Prix for the penultimate round of the season. I'm currently leading the championship by 39 points, so it's going to take a big disaster for me to fall off the top step of the championship. But I mean, hypothetically, it could happen. Of course, you know, there are still 60 points up for grabs. 26 for each of the races, and then another 8 for the sprint as well. So yeah, if I have a really poor couple of weekends, it is very possible for me to fall out of championship contention. But as long as I can, you know, keep it clean and keep it on track, we should be absolutely fine. Last time out in Portugal, we got the win, and yeah, that was great. From 9th on the grid, we got the strategy bang on, and that allowed us to make our way through the field up into first place. And yeah, it was a really good race for me in the end. And kind of, if we win the championship, that'll be the race where I think I pretty much cemented my my championship. But anyway, practice went pretty well. I felt like I had pretty good pace here. You know, we're not on the top step, but we don't need to be on the top step. You know, as long as we're racing around the front, that's all that really matters, you know. I can walk away with a couple of 5th places, and that will most likely be enough for me to win the championship with no real issues, you know. You got Norris and you got Albon, who are relatively close behind me, but generally speaking, you know, I'm still so far ahead that I think as long as I can just bag a few solid double digits point finishes in these final few races, there should be nothing really that can overturn my chances of winning this championship. It is going to be a wet qualifying, and apparently it's going to rain during the race as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what we can salvage from a wet qualifying. I don't think I'll be able to grab pole here, but who knows? I've been wrong about that kind of thing before. And yeah, I guess we'll just see what happens when we move into qualifying. Whether I can make it into Q3 at the very least, maybe aim for sort of a top 5 or thereabouts. And yeah, hopefully we have a good performance. We are out now in Q1. We're on a set of intermediate tyres, obviously, because the rain is not that bad, but it's bad enough that definitely you can't go out on a set of slicks. We do a 1:13.2 to start things off. It puts us P5, but I'm definitely going to have to go again at least once. So I go on the same set of tyres on the lap immediately afterwards. And yeah, we improve by a couple of tenths. You can see as I come up to the line, I'm going to be just over 2 tenths ahead. It's going to be a 1:13.0, moves me into P5. And yeah, I don't know if maybe I should probably go again one more time in this session just to make sure that we're going to definitely make it through. You can see we're down in P14 at the end of the session, so it would have just about been enough to see us through. But you know, an improvement is still going to be good for us. Improved by another almost 3 tenths, 1:12.7, and yeah, that is good enough in the end to see us through, obviously, in P8. So yeah, comfortable in the end. We made it through, no real problems. If we can show the kind of pace, we should be through to Q2 on Q3, no problem. And yeah, it's looking good for us. Who it's not looking good for, as you're about to see, if you take the fact that he's not in the top 14 anywhere, that means he can only be 15th or 16th if he's made it through. And we're going to scroll down and find out exactly where Alex Albon did end up finishing, and it was P20 for him, a disastrous result, and one that I would wage to say probably puts him outside of championship contention, unless he can have a really strong performance in the sprint and the race. Obviously less points handed out in the sprint. If he can cut his way through the field, then maybe, just maybe, he can get his way back into the points in time for the race. But you know, the sprint is only 12 laps, so he's not going to have a long time to do anything. We start out with a 1:12.8 on the intermediate tyres, so I'm going to be trying to improve even further. I think the track has dried out a little bit compared to Q1. Sainz on a 1:12.1, Russell now a 1:12.0. We do the same thing we did before, where we just go round again without changing the tyres or even coming back into the pits or anything. We do a 1:12.6. It's good enough for P7 at the time, but I think that, you know, we're seeing the 1:12.1s and the 1:12.0s coming out. I think I might have to improve a bit further. I'm actually right on the bubble as we come to the end of Q2 now. I'm in P10, but I do improve by another 3 tenths. It's a 1:12.3. And yeah, that is good enough to see us through in P5. So if I can get that kind of result in Q3, I'll be pretty happy with that. I think, like I said, I think there's a few cars on track that just seem to be a bit faster than me. The Bulls, the McLarens, the Ferraris, all of these guys seem like they're going to be a bit faster. No real shocks this time. All the shocking results came in Q1, I would say. And yeah, we're going to have to see if we can if we can salvage anything in Q3. Hopefully not too bad of a result, and we can make it through in sort of the top 5 or something like that, and hopefully progress even further on the grid in the sprint race, and bag some good points for the sprint and the race. It's a 1:12.2 to open things out, so you can tell that the track is drying even further than it was before. This time I don't bother with that second run on those tyres that I usually do, although I still am on the same tyres, granted. It's just I'm now I went back into the pits and everything and waited a little while before I went out again. So yeah, we're on the same set of intermediate tyres. We're about a couple tenths up. I don't think it's going to be good enough for pole. We crossed the line. It's a 1:12.0. And in the end, that is good enough to put us P6. So barring any penalties for anyone further up, we will be starting P6 for the sprint, and hopefully we can cut our way through the field a little bit. Norris on pole, so we're going to definitely want to definitely want to make our way through the field a little bit, because otherwise he is going to start breaking away from us and closing us down in the championship. So we're going to have a lot to do in the sprint and the race if we want to make sure that we can hold on to this championship. If he outscores us by less than 14 points over the course of this sprint and the race, then we will win the championship here in Brazil. But if he outscores me by more than 14 points over the course of the weekend, then the championship will roll over to Abu Dhabi for the 3rd season in a row. It will remain to be seen who's the champion of the world in the final race of the season. Obviously, it was myself and Leclerc battling for it in Season 4, myself and Norris battling for it in Season 5, and if I can't get a good result here, it will also be myself and Norris battling for it in Season 6 in Abu Dhabi. But, that time it was a massive points deficit he had to overcome, and yeah, this time it looks like it could be even bigger, to be honest. Even if he does outscore me by more than 14 points, I can't see him outscoring me by, a ridiculous amount. So yeah, we will wait and see what happens as we get into the sprint.
Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Leclerc, Sainz, Pierre Gasly, Robinson, Verstappen, Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, and Lance Stroll. Magnussen, Fittipaldi, Esteban Ocon, and Oscar Piastri. Tsunoda, Mick Schumacher, Robert Schwartzman, and Christian Lundgaard. Latifi, Albon, Théo Pourchaire, and Guan Yu Zhou. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
So, we're going to be running a soft compound of tyres in this sprint, which I think should give us the pace to carve through the field. In practice, I was running at 0.75 of the tyre wear that they expected I'd be running at. So yeah, only 3/4 of the tyre wear that they thought that I might be generating over the course of a lap or however long, which was very encouraging signs. It means that I'm pretty confident that the softs will go to the end of this sprint, and hopefully we can get a good result. Maybe get a couple of cars off the start, and then even maybe try and carve our way through the field up onto the podium, or even further than that perhaps. But yeah, grid forming up, and now we're getting ready to go as the lights come on. And the lights go out as we switch to the replay camera, and you can see that, unsurprisingly, I have gotten away quite well on those soft compound tyres. I'm going to try and go around the outside of a few cars here, challenging Pierre Gasly, and he's got Sainz on his inside as well, so I'm now up into P4 by going around the outside, which switched to the inside for the next corner. And yeah, that was a pretty good start from us. And now Leclerc is challenging Norris down into turn 4, and we are going to see who comes out on top of that one, and maybe I can get involved in this duel a little bit as well. But now we're looking at Théo Pourchaire, who yeah, has a big incident there, goes into the back of Zhou Guanyu, and that is the end of his race. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of safety car. It's a virtual safety car deployed, but then it immediately gets upgraded to a safety car when they realise that there is a car literally stranded in the middle of the circuit. So yeah, safety car called, and this gives the field an opportunity to bunch up, and then yeah, maybe we can go racing and try and get ahead of Leclerc and maybe even Norris on the safety car restart. Unfortunately, as you can see, our sprint might be over before it's begun, really, because that radio message did not bode well for our chances of finishing this race, or at least in a strong position. If it's some kind of engine issue that's going to plague us for the rest of the sprint, we're only going to go backwards, and yeah, that's gonna be a real struggle for us. So yeah, I don't know which I'd rather prefer it was, preferably neither, but yeah, it is another control electronics failure. That is our third control electronics failure of the season, and that means that is a guaranteed penalty. There's not even a slightly worn component that we can stick on for the last couple races or anything like that. All of our CEs are gone completely. So yeah, we will be taking a penalty. Fortunately, it should be for the sprint, for the race, which means that we would be starting last anyway because we had the retirement. So at least we won't have to take any penalties in Abu Dhabi, which is, I guess, something that I can take from this. But it's very little consolation, to be honest.
It's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. The gap at the top of the championship has been cut down after a difficult race today for our championship leader. With that result, the sport's newest team can no longer be touched at the top of the table. What an incredible journey this has been for a team many had written off a short time ago. They are the Formula One World Champions. The grid is set then, so that just leaves the race itself. Join us tomorrow where we'll be live with all the action. And until then, goodbye.
Well, it's going to be absolutely imperative now to get a good result in Abu Dhabi, because you saw what happened last time I started this low down in the grid in a race. I retired from the race with a few laps to go, but I wasn't going to be scoring points in it anyway. So, you know, even if I do finish this this race here in Brazil, it's going to be a real struggle for me to score any points here. And if Norris wins it, then he could potentially close the gap down to as little as 5 points in this championship. So I'm going to have my work cut out here if I want to keep it competitive. And yeah, Abu Dhabi is going to be a must. But we'll see if we can salvage anything from this race.
Returns to Interlagos once again with the stage set for what promises to be another classic Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel famously clinched his third championship here in 2012, and just 4 years later, Max Verstappen treated us to one of the finest wet weather drives of all time. It's an unusual anti-clockwise race here at Interlagos, where the Sao Paulo locals are packed into the grandstands at each of the 15 corners around this classic 2.7-mile circuit. Two very fast sections bookend the famous and highly technical Sector 2, where getting a good run out of Junsao into one of the 2 DRS zones will be key to any overtaking prospects today. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Sainz, Max Verstappen and Gasly, Albon, Fernando Alonso, Magnussen and Lance Stroll, Oscar Piastri, Mick Schumacher, Esteban Ocon and Tsunoda, Joe Lundgaard, Robert Schwartzman, and Daniel Ricciardo, Latifi, Fittipaldi, Robinson, and Théo Pourchaire. And now it's time to head down to the track. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box. Ant, it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Well, I am not taking any penalties in this race because, if you didn't notice, I did something immensely stupid and forgot to change my control electronics, which means I'm running around with a 99% worn CE unit in the back of my car. And yes, if you are wondering, that is as bad as it sounds. There is basically no way I am going to be able to finish this Grand Prix. And it really is just a case of how many laps am I going to be able to do before this thing completely gives up. Because, yeah, we are pissing smoke out of the back of the car. And I wouldn't be surprised if the black and orange flag were in the game, that we would receive it pretty quickly saying, yeah, you have to come into the pits and retire the car. You cannot be driving around like that. It is a hazard. But fortunately, it's not in the game, so we're allowed to go racing initially at least, and we're going to see if we can do anything as the lights come on. And the lights go out, and really my goal here is to try and get as close to Lando Norris and try and hold him up. If I can do that, then maybe, just maybe, I might be able to prevent him from winning this Grand Prix, and then we can try and do something to stop him from, you know, really gaining a lot of points on me in the championship. It's going to be tough, but I think that you know, if I maybe am a bit crafty with the strategy, then perhaps we could do that. I don't even know if we're going to make it to lap 12, which is going to be our pit lap, and that's sort of going to be where most of the soft compound tyres runners box. You can see I've already lost a place to Pourchaire. And yeah, we're just going to have to try and do anything we possibly can. Ricciardo, Norris's teammate, is down here with me. I think he maybe took a penalty or something, and I'm sure he's going to be trying to try and make my life as hard as possible, so we're going to have to get ahead of him as quickly as we can. We go up the inside of him, and we make our way back into P21 for the time being. But yeah, I'm just going to have to see if I can cut my way through the field, try and get close to Lando Norris, and see if I can salvage anything in this championship. Try and make things at least somewhat competitive for Abu Dhabi, because I'm going to have to take a 10-place grid penalty there now to replace my control electronics, which is something I really shouldn't have to do. But because I made the critical mistake of forgetting to change the control electronics, that is, you know, that is game over for this championship if I don't have a major performance in Abu Dhabi. You know, if he closes the gap up to, what, 5 or 6 points, I need to beat him. And it's as simple as that, really. You know, I need to beat him. We get ahead of Pourchaire now, and we're up back into P20. But yeah, Abu Dhabi, I'm going to need to beat Lando Norris from no higher than 11th on the grid. You know, maybe there's a chance he could bottle the qualifying, but I think it's fairly unlikely. So we're going to have our work cut out for us. And now we're going to try and get ahead of Enzo Fittipaldi and go up the inside of him at this same corner where we've already made a couple moves so far. We're just about to pull it off and we're up into P19. But still, this is just feeling so, you know, hopeless. Regardless of what happens, you know, Norris is probably going to go on to win this Grand Prix, and there's going to be so little that we're going to be able to do. There is a yellow flag up front, and someone is going to be retiring from this Grand Prix, and we're going to find out who it is in a moment. It is my teammate, Alex Albon, in one of the most unreliable cars on the grid this season. I'm actually very curious to see how many DNFs me and him have had between us. I think it's 13 at this point, something like that. I think he's had 6 and I've had 7, or maybe he's had 5 and I've had 7 or something like that. But yeah, just an absolutely ridiculous amount of DNFs for someone who's got a completely upgraded durability department. I cannot believe it, quite frankly, but I'm gonna have to believe it because that's what's happened. And now we're going to try and get ahead of Schwartzman here, and we're up into P17, but still we're so far away from any semblance of points with a CE unit in the back of the car that could fail at any moment. It could just give up at any moment. So all of this could potentially be for absolutely nothing. We got the inside of Christian Lundgaard there, and we make our way into P16. But still, I just can't believe that that this has happened. I feel so foolish for doing this, and yeah, we even if we get ahead of Latifi here, the next car in front is 4 seconds up the road, Esteban Ocon. So it's going to be a long time before I catch up to those guys, and then there's a big train I'm going to have to try and carve my way through. We got the inside of Nicholas Latifi in the Aston Martin there, and we're up into P15, but I think that's about all I'm going to be able to do. I think what we're going to have to do here is try and extend this stint as long as we possibly can. To be honest, I thought the car would have already given up by this point, because last time I made this mistake was on a live stream, and I think my car gave out by about lap 3 on that occasion when I did a similar thing. But here you can see Leclerc and Norris have pitted, and they're coming out of the pits. Leclerc is actually ahead of Norris, which is really good to see, and another person who's going to be ahead of Norris is myself and Nicholas Latifi. Unfortunately, Latifi's coming in, so I was really hoping that Lundgaard might be ahead of Norris. But yeah, to no avail, unfortunately, as Latifi now peels into the pits. We've fallen out of DRS range of Leclerc, so Norris is going to be closing us down very soon, and this is going to be the critical moment in the Grand Prix. Can we keep Lando Norris behind us in this next DRS zone? Because if we can, maybe we can push him back into Christian Lundgaard, and maybe we can hold him up for at least some amount of time in this race to make it so he can't contend with Leclerc and Sainz in front. That is pretty much all I can hope for at this point. We've managed to keep him behind for now, but how long will we be able to keep him behind before he eventually makes this move? I think he's going to try and maybe make a move on us through this next corner. He's going to try and go around the outside, but I get a snap of oversteer there. That wasn't me just jerking to the left to try and keep him behind me. I actually did oversteer. And now you can see on lap 15, we're still managing to hold him off. And in fact, Lundgaard has even gotten ahead of him. But as we come through this fast right-hander, I've actually had a spin. And that isn't because I've spun. You're about to see when the replay stops. It's because that's when my car gave out. And that is the end. That's it. We did what we could. But it's just completely over. And yeah, we suffer yet another DNF on this weekend, unsurprisingly this time. And that's it.
Out of the bag today. It's a great win. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on track was: speed. I know it sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today, and a stunning win for Ferrari.
So it's going to be a penalty for me in Abu Dhabi. Norris takes home 3rd place in the end, which is not where I wanted him to be ideally, but at least it's not the top step of the podium. So 1-2 for Ferrari. So Norris closes me up by either 15 or 16 points, depending on whether he got fastest lap or not, and that means the gap will either be 15 or 16 points. That's not an impossible deficit to hold on to, even with a 10-place grid penalty. As long as I can finish 5th or 6th, we should be okay.
Now, let's take a look at the driver's standings. Well, not the result our points leader would have wanted, but it certainly makes things interesting going forward. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Yuki Tsunoda gets my vote today.
With that result, the sport's newest team can no longer be touched at the top of the table. What an incredible journey this has been for a team many had written off a short time ago. They are the Formula One World Champions. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Well, that is going to make things interesting for sure. He did get fastest lap in the end, and he also got 15 points for the 3rd place. So, yeah, he's only 15 points behind me in the championship, which means he can win in Abu Dhabi. So the championship rolls over. But I do have an opportunity. All I have to do is get myself into 5th place and hope that he doesn't get fastest lap. Otherwise, I'll need 4th. But it doesn't feel entirely hopeless this time. You know, it's going to be interesting, but I think we still have a chance of winning this championship. But you're going to have to wait and see, because that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you for the finale in Abu Dhabi.